We dedicate all that we're going to be saying and discussing into your hands. We thank you for an opportunity to bring before you a digital inclusion summit, which is financial and is for the benefit of every one of us in this country, in this nation, in one or another. Directly or indirectly, we're all benefiting from this, and we thank you for all the stakeholders. We thank you for all the personalities and everyone that's going to be watching us online and those that are actually physically here. We thank you and we bless you for a fruitful day, and I pray that all our panelists will actually benefit from this more than ever before, and that whatever we're going to be discussing will actually be of benefit to everyone else that's around the world. In your name we pray and believe, and everybody said, amen. Thank you so much. You might take your seats. One more time, we'd like to appreciate everyone who's already here. I know that there are still more people joining us, but we cannot wait for everyone because time is already first spent. And of course, I'd like to appreciate our partners, and I appreciate the major sponsors, because without them we probably wouldn't be here today. My name is Lady Bizzo. I'm going to be your moderator for the first panel, and I'd like to just appreciate everyone who's already here. Our partners, Hi People, thank you so very much. Level 1 Project, thank you so very much. Mojo Loop, thank you so much. Modus Box, thank you very much. And Cross-Select Technologies, thank you very much. Without these partners, we all know, would never have been able to actually make it this far. So we appreciate and we say thank you to everyone else. Thank you.
My name is Nicolas Kalonji. I'm the operations manager of Hi People. We are happy to see all of you. Of course, I'm receiving a lot of calls and messages that most of our guests are running late because of jam. Lady Bezos will take us through the first panel. We have 4 very important and insightful panels. We have one for informal women traders. We have another for disadvantaged people. We have a panel for purely women, formal women. We have another that is very technical about fintech and systems, among others. They are very insightful panels. But even importantly, minus the panels, we are going to have winners of the 8th Digital Impact Awards Africa. Yes, it is the 8th since 2017, rather 2014. We have been doing this. We started small. I remember when Innocent first brought up the idea in 2013, 2014. People didn't believe we knew what we are trying to do. But with time, they are believing that actually these guys had a slight idea on what they are trying to implement for Uganda and Africa. Without bragging or boasting, I will just stop there. I'll hand over to Lady Bezos. She will tactfully handle the panel, which will be in local languages: Luganda, Lunyakitara, Lunyankole, Rusoga, Swahili, and English. Whichever language the ladies will be comfortable in, that's how they'll express themselves. Good thing is, Bezos there, she's one who knows over 40 languages. She will competently manage the panel.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Yes. I leave it to you, Beza.
We're going to invite our first panel, and of course it's going to be basically in Luganda. Why? These are informal traders, women from the informal market, and of course we all know they're more comfortable in the Luganda language. Once in a while, I'll try to interpret where I can, and I'll probably be giving you insight on what they're trying to, tell us what they actually are going through. Of course, we're going to be tackling the COVID-19 crisis. How have these informal traders, the women, adjusted digitally? Do they even know what we're talking about when we say digitally? Do they understand? Has it been of benefit to them? Has COVID-19 affected them negatively or positively? What have been the outcomes, the effects? All that and so much more. So with me, ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome the informal traders. I'll begin with Aisha Nanono, women leader, Bugolobi Market. She's one of our panelists tonight. Obugalo for Aisha Nanono, ladies and gentlemen. Aisha Nanono, Tukwani Dizanyo, thank you so much. Let's invite Grace Akiki, women leader, Wandegea Market, another panelist. So Grace Tuksanyuki Denyo. Samali Nakaketo, women leader, Chitintale Market, another panelist. Samali Tukwani Dizanyo, please make your way up here. Samali, you're very much welcome. We have Farida Nabukela, women leader, Mpererwe Market. Farida, you're very much welcome. And you're very smart. I think it's because it's a Friday, yeah? And of course, lastly, let's invite Sarah Naluwaga Lubambula, the women leader, Kalere Markets. Sarah, you're very much welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today in our Digital and Financial Inclusion Summit 2021. Tujatandika nomchala ni nanyi wano. Weyanjule Jova nemirimu gyokola.
Nsanyusa okubalaba mwenna. Nze Naluwaga Sarah Lubambula. Nkolera mu Kalere Market era ndi secretary there nkiikirira obukulembeze bw'omu Kalere. Nina omudaala ntunda nnyaanya, obutungulu, biriŋŋanya, ebyo ebigwa mu kko eryo.
Mbalamusizza mwenna abazze wano. Amannya nze Nabukeera Farida, nva Mpereerwe, era nkola nga treasurer w'akatale ako. Ninamu omudaala ogugatta byonna ebitundibwa.
Erinnya Nakakeeto Samali, nkola mu katale ekitintale nga nze ntwala abakyala b'akatale ako nfumba mmere.
Amannya n'eddoboozi Tusima Grace Akiki okuva Wandegeya Market, nze eddoboozi ly'abasuubuzi abakiikirira awamu baba balaze, ate nkolera ku mudaala namba 9 ntunda vegetables and fruits.
Erinnya Nannono Aisha nsoko batolera assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mwebale okutukyaza abasibo ne bannyabo. Amannya erinnya nga bwe ndyogedde Nannono Aisha, nkolera mu katale Bugolobi zo w'abakyala mu katale akake Bugolobi, era nfumba mmere nkola mu hoteeri.
Twagala okubabuuza omwaka 2021 gubayisizza gutya business nga bwebadde oba nga bwebadde egenda ng'egyo mubadde mukolamu emirimu gyammwe mu butale obw'enjawulo. Business ebayisizze ekya. Njatandika n'omukyalo ono andi wano okumpi.
Neyanze nnyo moderator. Omwaka 2021 tegubadde mwangu naddala mu katale kenkiikirira. Weewaawo nga president yali atukkiriza tukole era tubadde tusulangayoko abamu, naye ekizibu kyali nti entambula yaleetangawo obuzibu. Ate ffe ndowooza ne tutafuna mukisa gwa zino booda okwesiga abantu ng'abo. Fogo omukisa tegwatuukako mu Kalere. Kati abakyala ne bafuna obuzibu nti weewaawo baasulangayo ne ebibala goods baazifunanga, naye ate abazigula ne babeera nga bazibu okuzituukako okuzifuna. Kati ne kibabeerera kizibu nti baalina ebyokutunda naye nga babigula tebabikola ki? Tebabigula. Kale nze sayidi yaffe tegubadde mwangu kubanga gwaviirako n'abakyala abasinga okulemererwa ne baddayo mu byalo, era still bakyaliyo kubanga balina loans, tebalina bwe bazisasula, yet capital agwa. Kale obuzibu bwaliwo bwe butyo.
Farida Nabukeera, omwaka wa 2021 gubadde gutya? Business nga bw'obadde ogitambuza ebadde etya?
Eyanza nnyo nnyabo, naye nga 2021 tegubadde mwaka mwangu ddala olw'okuba gubadde gugoberera 2020 ne gubeerera ate ddala muzibu nti twesanze nga ebintu bingi ku maketi weebiri naye ng'ekyamazima ababigula tebakola ki? Tebaliiwo olw'abantu nti babadde baavu nnyo. Ate nga weesanga nga naawe mwennyini abitunda, ekyamazima tokyalina kapito kuba byoleeta byebivunda nga tokyalina kapito asobola kukola ki? Kubitwala mu maaso. Kaakati n'abatuwola ssente nga nabo tebakyakola ki? Tetukyasobola kuzifuna olw'ensonga nti nga bw'omanyi looni n'okuzzaayo ssente za looni ezo si kyangu. Wekanga bakutawanyiza bakusibye toyina ssente zosobola kuzzaayo olw'ensonga amagoba gaba mangi, ate nga n'ebyofuna ebyali badde bikola amagoba biba bifudde. N'olwekyo tusanze obuzibu 2021 than ate 2020 because 2020 ate abantu balina ssente bwe babasibira ewaka basobolanga okujja ku ssente ezo zebaterese ne baleeta mu katale. Kwolwo twakola naye ate ku guno tufiiriddwa nnyo ng'abasuubuzi, tufiiriddwa nnyo ebyaffe.
Samali Nakakeeto, business omwaka 2021 ebadde etya?
Neyanza nnyo nnyabo, 2021 tebadde nnyangu n'akamu kubanga ffe ng'abafumba emmere abantu abasinga babadde tebakyajja kulya mu butale. Ndowooza nga engeri ssente gye zibeera entono babeera bagula ebintu lumu ne baliira awaka ne famire yaabwe. Kati gutukosezza nnyo, tegututambudde bulungi n'akamu, ate nga tulina looni. Ekyamazima ffe ng'obutale namba esinga obungi tutambulira mu kwewola mu banka ne mu bamanerenda. Bamanerenda ebintu byaffe babitutte nnyo, tegubadde mwangu n'akamu gubaddemu obuzibu bungi. Luli baali balina ku ssente ne bazijjayo naye 2021 ssente zaali zimaze okubakendeerako. Kati ne gubeera muzibu nnyo gye tuli era tutambudde bwe tutyo nga tegulina bwangu yadde n'akamu. Naye tusaba Katonda atukwatireko ne banka zennyini zitusaasire zituddiremuko ku ssente ze twewola, zituyambe amagoba gabe matono ddala ate baleme natukaluubiriza nnyo kubanga ebintu oluusi batusaba bingi nnyo. Oluusi ffe ng'abaakatale bye tutalina ne tufuna obuzibu bw'okwewola n'okuzaayo amagoba ng'ate bizinensi zaafiira ddala. Ekyamazima bizinensi zaagwa. Tuli mu mbeera eyeetaaga okusitula, eyeetaaga okuyambibwako naye ku magoba amatono ate nga batukwatanga abazadde nga batutambuza tusobole okuddamu okwetengerera kubanga tulabika twakka wansi. Tusobole okwetengerera bizinensi zaffe ezo zisobole okuddamu batusitule. Ekyo kye tusaba.
Tweyanziza Grace Akiki. Business 2021 ebayisiza etya?
Neyanziza nnyo mwenna abatuyise wano okutuyamba. Mu butuufu amazima gali nti ate ewandege yakyo kyasukka. Tuli bubi nnyo. Lwaki tuli bubi? Twasooka ntugala katuyambibweko safe border. Bambi aba safe border akukolera list ennungi ensava n'akubulya na buli kimu kyona ky'otayina naye lwakwagala okukola n'ogamba kasitoma ono bandi ajja okunsasula n'ogula n'ebintu by'otayina naye bw'omala obbimuwa okaga nti enyama gye wampadde embi, enkoko sigisiimye, kyokka okoze eki? Obiguze omaze kuteeka mu ssente zo. Okukakana nga nabwo obusente abukoze eki? Abukubiddeyo. Amazima gali nze safe board ewandege abaatuyisa bubi era nakati tukyanoonya buyambi na ssente zaffe ezimu zaafiirayo. Simanyi aba safe board mugenda kutuyamba mutya ku nsonga eyo? Tuli bubi. Ensonga endala nitugenda okumukutunti tugendeko ku masimu ng'aba amasimu aga MTN tukozesa esimu zammwe, tukozesa buli kimu kyonna ekyammwe na senta naki buli kimu kyonna naye mutuyambeko mutuweeko ku masimu ge tusobola okukolerako. Bizinensi zaakyuka kati abantu bona bakolera ku masimu naye amasimu ago tutugayina bulungi. Tuba tusaba aba MTN mutusigemuko ku busimu bambi tubawagidde. Kati nga nze Akiiki natandika na 772 kiri nti natandika naki na MTN. Badde nsaba nti aba MTN abasuubuzi mutuyambeko mutusigemu obusimu obwo tusobole okutambulirako. Bannange ekirala ate bw'otuuka ku banka kyekyo kiri kyasusse. Ewendegeya twali weetuli nga tukola mu COVID eyasooka naye mu butuufu twafuna ennaku nyingi. Twatusula mu butale tutuyina ntambula nga mwe mubimanyi naye ebizibu bye twafuna bw'owa omuntu ebintu genda agamba nsindikira kino na kino n'omuwa n'atakuwa ssente kyokka bakuwadde ebintu byali bingi mu butale oli bw'ajja abikuteekera ku mudaala n'omuteesa ebbeeyi ssente ne zigaana okukola ki? Okuvaamu. Oyo n'asigala abanja n'oli ajja abanja n'ogamba nkoze ntya sigenda kuva mu katale. Batugambye tubeera mu katale tulabirire eggwanga. Nodduka n'ogenda mu banka era nze mu butuufu mu Centenary banka wendi nnyo wenzija ssente no mu Finance Trust wenzija ssente no mu Equity banka wenzija ssente naye okugenda okunona ssente ate nakwoyina akatini leeta yeetaano leeta omukaaga leeta omusanvu ne bakwetoolooza mwezi mulamba ayagenze kusaba obuyambi kyokka n'obusente bwona n'okola ki? N'obuteekayo. Obusente obufunye obuteese mu bizinensi maama nnyabo yeekyanze bitya naye bo tebaagala kumanya baagala ssente zaabwe. Ate abalungi abo Katonda yabawa basaba emisingo gyonna egy'okunsona okuggulu. Mpa endagaano, mpa resiiti, mpa omudaala, mpa income, mpa security byonna okola ki? Obiwaayo. Kyokka bw'olemererwa ssente bwe tebaagala kumanya batwala ebyabwe. Bannange bwe tusabira abatuyisa abalungi mutuyambe ababbanka ab'amasimu gammwe ge tukozesa ababbanka mutuyambe ab'amasimu gammwe ge tukozesa nga MTN na banka zonna zeemenye ninjogerako Equity banka, Centenary banka, Trust banka. Weewaawo tujja ssente ezo zituyambe zituuka ne zitulemerera bwe tubadde tusaba mutuyambe ng'abasuubuzi ffenna naye ewandege yawo mu butuufu mugitunuulire nnyo nti tuli bubi tusaba buyambi bwammwe. Tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege.
Tweyanziza nnyo olw'ebigambo ebyo. Aisha Nannono 2021 ebayisizza etya? Business ebadde etya? Naawe tubuulire.
Neeyanziza nnyo. bannange ndooza ffenna enkaaba eriyomu ndooza twawula butale kubanga ekituufu kiri nti covid atuyisizza bubi naddala ffe abakyala kubanga ffe abakyala tulina ebizibu nti twajja ne tutikkibwa emigugu gy'abaana tebasoma duli wamanyanga nti abaana kambateeke mu kisulo ntobe enjogera y'ennaku zino ntobe ndabe naye tulina ekizibu tusula mu butale tukikkirize kubanga era muzeeyi takijjangawo olw'embeera gye tulimu ssente tewali naye tebereza omuntu alina abaana 3 alina okubaliisa kakati mbuulira awo ensula mu katale kiri kityanga n'abaana we bali awo kale tulina obuzibu nti tusula wala oli abalamu transport tagirina ate zeyandibadde nazo aba alina okuzirekera abaana bw'aba balesa awaka kati kwe kwonooneka kw'abaana toyina kwetikka abaana kujja nawo mu katale naye obalesa awaka ssente ezo zisindize abaana bakola kye baagala ekirala ababanka tetujja era ffenna tukaba enkaaba emu tukkirize ffe abakyala tutambulira mu looni abakyala tutambulira mu looni ffenna mwe tuyimiridde naye banka mwekube mu mutima tetujja kubaawula zonna banka zaffe naye mwekube mu mutima omukyala ng'azze okusaba ssente mumanyi omukyala aba mukozi fe abakyala tukola naye tontikka nnyo ate tonnemesa nze okuyimuka okujja mba sirina kyapa okuyimuka okujja mba sirina bintu by'oyagala naye bwe mba nze nenkweyanjulira n'otuuka ku mulimu gwange togamba nti guno omulimu gw'olina tegusobozesa ssente ezo z'oyagala mba nja kuzisasula oyinza okutwala ebyamangi ne bagaana okusasula naye nze alumirirwa effamire yange nze ate mba nfaayo nnyo okusasula n'olwekyo ffe tukiikiridde bannaffe okukaabira banka mututaase bannange okutuwa ku ssente n'okutuggyako amagoba kisoboka kubanga ebbanga lyetutambuza ddene mugambe mu covid eno bannange abakyala b'omu butale katubayambe tubawe ku ssente zino tubaggyeko amagoba bakomyewo ssente ate insha allah bwe tunaaba tuteredde tuyinza okuddayo emabega ne tutandika okusasula ekintu ekyo tukisaba busabye ababanka mutunuulire abakyala abakozi b'omu butale bombutale bonna kuba mbadde ngenda kwogera bugoloobi kubanga gyembeera naye nga mutuyambe abakyala tuli bubi nnyo mu bigambo by'okwewola loan ate nga tetulina kyakola tulina okwewola tufune ssente eziriisa abaana oba ne famire yonna ebigambo byange bibyo salamu alaykum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Judging by what they just said, for those of you who actually can understand Luganda, they just said, I mean, transport has been a major problem for them because they had to sleep in the markets and it was very hard for them to actually get their produce to their customer, who's the end user, and from the market. It was literally next to impossible. Of course, they've mentioned high interest loan rates from the banks and making it very hard for them to actually get what they wanted financially, especially from money lenders and financial institutions across the country. I mean, orders from customers like you and I declined tremendously. So for them, that was definitely making a loss and business was going on a low. Then delivery had complications as well, because anyone could actually say, if people are not coming to you, go where they are. But how easy was it or how hard was it for them to get their produce to the end user, you and I who are the people who actually want these particular products from the market? It was really hard because even then, delivery was next to, we just had somebody complain about, you know, the e-commerce safe border system whereby you need to rely on safe border. It's a new way of actually doing business. But delivery had complications. And they had clients refusing to even pay, yet they actually knew that I've given the safe border the exact things that they have actually requested for. And then they ended up losing on money, losing on produce, and time is already spent. So they couldn't even rely on the safe border delivery. It had its complications as well. They have been mishandled, they've been mismanaged by money lenders, by the loans. And of course, like one of our panelists said, women have a family burden where children are stuck at home. Before, children were in school, so it would be easy for you to go to the market. But now you're going to the market, you have to either go with the children or even leave them at home, and that alone was actually really bad. So banks need to be very considerate and fair with these women and these informal traders. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand clap for the panelists this morning. The informal women traders, a better hand clap than that, please. Thank you so very much. Nicolas, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bizo. Like you have heard, we have had a panel of women informal traders from Kampala markets. They have said a couple of issues ranging from failure to access loans, not having smartphones, not getting enough help, things as simple as seminars workshops and trainings. The good news is we have almost all the big banks here, from Let's Go to Pride Microfinance, Standard Chartered, Centennial, UBA, among others. I hope you have listened to what the ladies are saying, because it's a joke to say you are enhancing financial inclusion when you are leaving out the majority, the informal people. You are joking, you are playing with us. Sorry to say, but that's what you are doing. Without so many words, I'm going to invite Connie Nancha. We want to do this in 2 minutes. Movit Uganda, because Movit cares about ladies, has brought some hampers. And I hope, as Connie comes, you tell your bosses, you think about giving these people loans minus hampers, because hampers are your products anyway. We want more than hampers, but we are very appreciative. Connie Nancha is going to be in front here and hand over the hampers to each of the ladies, including the moderator. One by one comes in front, they get a hamper and a photo, then we do a group photo. Connie will speak later. They have a new product called Family Soap. Sabuni wa family. Ngono gwe bampadde wano. I don't know how much it is, but I've been told it's very good. It comes in different flavors, among others. Let us play a group photo of all the ladies with Connie Nancha. Connie is the head of communications and public relations at Movit. Let me invite our panelists for this panel. We have Ivan Ojakol, who is a lawyer for trade and technology. Thank you, Ivan. We have Paul Kirungi. He is straight from Uganda, Los Angeles. I don't know where to put him, but he's a Ugandan. I understand he trades in America and Uganda. CEO Zovikash, please, you're welcome. We have Mr. Moses Lutahigwa, Head Consumer, Private and Business Banking at Standard Chartered Bank. You are most welcome, Mr. Moses. We have Connie Nancha, Communications and Corporate Affairs Manager at Movit Products. We also have Mr. Sam Ochanya, Head of Financial Inclusion at Let's Go. You are most welcome. As they make their way, like I said, we are going to first have a 4-5 minute speech by Mohamed Chimbugwe about inclusion for people with disabilities.
My name is Mohamed Chimbugwe, and before I say anything, I want to say something. It was really refreshing to see the market leaders here. It was a commendable shift from tradition, where we meet in these luxurious places and discuss digital inclusion and discuss financial inclusion without the input of the beneficiaries and end users. So let's give a huge round of applause to the organizers. I'm here to talk about financial systems for the poor. And I must say, having financial systems and the poor in the same statement is a paradox. Because in the most traditional and strict sense, the financial sector fears the poor. The poor are considered unreliable. The poor are considered risky. The financial sector is interested in those that can save, borrow, and invest meaningfully. Yet look at majority of our labor force. Okay, so look at majority of our labor force, smallholder farmers. Smallholder farmers worry about land security, farm inputs, shocks and disasters like droughts and locusts. That is not very attractive to the financial sector. Look at majority of our young people, entrepreneurs with close to zero capital, close to zero skills, most of whose ventures die before their first birthday. Not very attractive to the financial sector. You heard the concerns of the market leaders here crying about petty things that are not very attractive to the financial sector. So financial systems for the poor must be empathetic, where the financial sector tremendously and deliberately shifts from its traditional role to a role of empowerment, to a role of providing poor services. This role of empowerment means that the traditional, the financial sector has got to deliberately be flexible. Empowerment kicks off with ensuring access to financial services by the poor. We've seen mobile money and other fintech innovations enabling us to cover reasonable ground in ensuring access to financial services for the poor. We've seen attempts for collaboration between the traditional financial sector and fintech innovations to extend financial services to the poor. We've seen a semblance of extending credit to the poor through these digital innovations. But it's not yet meaningful enough to inspire investment. So the financial sector must also deliberately empower the poor to save, pool resources and save. That is meaningful saving. The ladies from the market said SACCOs have failed. SACCOs have failed largely because they don't know how to make them work. Financial systems for the poor are those where the financial sector deliberately empowers the poor to learn how to make SACCOs work for them, to learn how to meaningfully save together, to learn how to meaningfully borrow together, to learn how to meaningfully invest together. So that way, the financial sector is not simply doing their traditional, role of accepting deposits and extending credit, but it is also deliberately empowering the people, the poor, to make sure that they benefit from these financial services. So I look forward to conversations on how we can have more meaningful collaboration between the traditional financial sector and fintech innovations to ensure meaningful saving, borrowing, and investment for the poor. I also look forward to meaningful conversations on how we can ensure regulation to reduce risk on the side of the financial sector, because like I said at the beginning, they worry a lot about poor people and the risks that come with transacting with them. Thank you so much for listening to me.
To start the panel, I'm going to start with Ivan. COVID has caused a lot of issues. We all know and agree. But it has also brought out of opportunities. We need to understand, how has the migration from analog to digital transactions moved in Uganda?
Thank you very much, Nicholas. For starters, I must commend the organizers of this event for that previous panel. That's, to use the colloquial term, the realest panel I've ever seen. After all these years of appearing on these panels, that was now the real financial inclusion. So, ironically, I think e-commerce, fintech, and the players in the ecosystem have had a sort of upsurge, even in an economy like ours that is still largely, as you heard from the previous panel, that is still largely analog. There's been an upsurge in digital activity. The likes of Jumia, there's a beehive of activity in the market, the likes of Weber here. Recently, Trips acquired Ugabus. Cheaper Cash and what have you have had some serious capital raises. So there's been a sort of upsurge in the market, ironically, during COVID. And I think there have been a couple of reports from World Payments Report 2020 and 2021 that the sector has grown by 14%. I think they said it was only 8%, but still there's been an upsurge even in an economy like ours, despite the fact that the hurdles that traditionally characterize us.
Thank you, Ivan. Paul, now that Ivan has given a hint on what is happening and what has happened, in your opinion, what opportunities and considerations are available for inclusion and empowerment of everyone, especially women?
Right. Thank you so much. I think we need to go back to the basics and ask ourselves what lessons are we learning from whatever is happening right here in our local markets, but also on the international scene. There's a lot of opportunities, like you had the previous panel that was here. Time came when the only way they could have their customers is them buying from them online. But the problem they have is, first of all, they do not have access to the smartphones. Second, they don't know how to use them. So as people who are innovative, or people who are innovating these solutions, we need to ask ourselves, are the solutions that we are innovating really solving a problem, right? If we start asking ourselves such questions, then we are going to build valuable solutions which are going not only to benefit us as businesses making profits from people using these platforms, but also these people who are selling their merchandise take home something, you know? It's very absurd that so many times businesses at the end of the year post billions of shillings or billions of dollars in revenue, yet the people that they've been serving go home with nothing, you know? We need to include, if this is going to be beneficial to all of us who are playing in this sector.
I'm going to speak to the two bankers. I'm going to ask you the same question. Each one of you has 2 minutes to explain. The question is very simple. How are you helping poor people strengthen their livelihood? What are you doing to ensure that the informal traders, the ladies that were here earlier, can get loans? What are you doing to ensure that they have capital? And lastly, what are you doing as bankers to ensure that those ladies and all the other informal people out there can register their businesses and do business and give you more and more money?
Thank you so much for your question. First of all, I would like maybe to change the spin a bit on what we define as poor. A farmer in Amuru has the chance to have a farm that can possibly, if well facilitated, get 1.8 tons of rice per acre. If that person has 40, 50, 60 acres of land, then you can begin to determine how much money they make. So in my view, those actually are the real customers that we should be supporting, because those actually are the rich people who with a few enablers can actually accelerate their productivity level and be able to bring in a lot more into the economy. Back to your question on what are we doing in particular to ensure that these customers have access to play and be more involved in the financial services sector. The first thing is, as bankers, for a long time, we have thought inward, focusing on what we do internally, but not going onto the ground. The panel that we just brought here, one thing that I picked from was one of the panelists who said, can you come to us where we are and be able to understand us, then be able to design solutions that speak to us where we are. I think one thing that we are doing as a bank is to ensure that we're able to collaboratively be able to look for the relevant partners, and we are already having engagements with different people whom we believe speak the language of these people. Be able to build solutions that are able to be relevant to them and be able to give them access to capital. We are focusing on ensuring that every solution you deliver to the market should be able to be in a way, in the simplistic way possible. Beyond just having apps and other solutions that we have, maybe websites, the local person has a mobile phone. Can you enable borrowing through your SSD model? So those are some of the things we're focusing on developing. But the major area that we're focusing on is on how can we enable these customers be educated, have the right information, and be able to be more equipped and be strengthened. And through our different partners, we are increasingly training different sets of customers and different strengths of local people to be able to play in the sector. I think the final comment I will give is when we were assessing where can we play most, we picked farmers in Lira and Nebi and have taken them through upskilling in the last 1 year. But when we see what has happened to them after training and upskilling, it's really marvelous. So I believe it's more focused on those people speaking their language, training them and upskilling them, that we can make relevance in what we do beyond even providing finances, which we do as bankers.
Fair enough. Samuel.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So, our dear customers, Bamama, if I could use that, very touched by the conversation that we had here. I'll speak from experience what we have done. We do quite a bit of lending in the microfinance space. The last 2 years, we took a decision as an institution. We have a lot of group borrowing customers. I think we have about 4,000. And in the last 2 years, because of the lockdown, we sat down as an institution and we said, you know what? Our customers are hurting. Why should we then be prospering when our customers are hurting? So what the decision that we took is we decided to give all our customers a blanket repayment holiday, which gave them 3 months of not paying, and we did not accrue any interest in that period. So I think at that point, we are a smaller institution than Stanchart, of course. But the impact of that is that we were losing about 700 million shillings per month in interest that we could have earned, and said, you know, other than charge our customers this 700 million across the board, let us take that hit as an institution. We can be able to survive compared to our customers who are in the market. So I think as an institution, our tagline is improving lives, okay? So that was the way we could see that we could partner with our customers to make sure that in this time of difficulty, we are not trying to benefit out of the difficulty of somebody else. But as an encouragement to many of the bottom of the pyramid business people, there is something that we have forgotten, the power of, can I say, consolidating or working together. It is not uncommon for you to go home and you find somebody, about 3 shops or 4 shops are selling exactly the same things. Somebody is selling posho, selling rice, selling beans, selling what? The next shop is selling posho, beans. They are the same size, from the same supplier. And so you're just lost for where to go. You know, so what you do is you say, today I'll shop from this one, the next day I'll shop from the other. So you don't have any loyalty. In those midala in the market, you'll find somebody selling pawpaws, watermelon. Right next to them is the same person, is another person selling exactly the same things. We need to look at ourselves, to introspectively look at our businesses and see how do we create synergies between ourselves. If I am selling vegetables or fruits, can we agree together and say, let us front one face and say, I am going to sell vegetables, I am going to sell this, and you work together and promote each other, such that when somebody walks in, they buy from everybody else, and therefore you will not find these issues of somebody saying, you know, this person badmouths me or does these things. We need to develop the power of working together, and that is where a lot of the big businesses out there have beaten us, or the businesses outside of the country have beaten us, because they realize when we work together, we are able to grow our market. And that is the appeal that I have to Bamama in the Midara. If somebody is making katogo for breakfast, can we have this person who's specializing in meats for lunch? Can we have somebody who's specializing in this? Such that at the end of the day, you're able to see how much has come into the collective basket, as opposed to having this competition that ultimately becomes unhealthy. So I think, yes, we have a lot to do as financial institutions. We should not be selfish and look for how we can make money without having a win-win situation for our customers.
Thank you, Samuel. Now that you have heard that, I want to speak to Connie Nancha. Connie is my Ogie from Daily Monitor. I don't know whether she knows, but me, I know she's my Ogie from Daily Monitor. The gentlemen have said several things. I know you are not in the financial sector per se, but because you're a journalist, you know most of these things. I want you to be sincere and honest. Are these banks helping informal people? Are they helping with the poor people?
I believe they are doing their best to ensure that they have all aspects incorporated. But you see, what such forums bring to the table is that there is need for that partnership, but above all, having products that are tailor-made to suit the different customers. So if they notice and acknowledge that, which I believe they have, I think the future is quite bright, because you notice most of the biggest challenges or causes of, say, poverty or uptake of financial, services, digital, services, is majorly around awareness, around how compatible or how do these products speak to the needs of the respective customers, and that is something they are incorporating. So I would like to say, yeah, I believe they're doing their best.
Thank you. Using your experience from both America and Uganda, how do you think we are going to recover from COVID-19? Using examples of how some businesses in America have recovered, what did you learn that people here should do to recover from COVID-19? Because we are still leaping.
Right. Like I say, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Unfortunately, we lost so many people to COVID, and we are still losing people with this new variant that was just announced the other day. It is sad. But on the other hand, I am going to say it was a blessing in a disguise for so many businesses, that is business-wise. So many businesses thrived, most especially those ones who thought out of the box. The mamas were saying during this time, they learned how to transact on mobile. But how do we go past this? Let's take this as a learning experience. It took the world by the storm, like the Europe, the America. All these markets were greatly affected. But what these markets are doing better is the governments are issuing like bailouts to corporations. They are issuing actually bailouts even to the smallest business unit in a specific area. The governments here are not really doing that. And when it comes to the banks, here it is really sad. Actually, the banks here are looking at fintechs as competitors rather than collaborators. The thing with banks, banks go where they see they can easily make revenue. On the other hand, fintechs or startups go where there's a problem, right? Where there's a problem, then they work on a solution. If people can buy the solution, then the fintechs or the startups are able to make money. If banks could collaborate better with fintechs, I think we could go so far together, and rather than banks seeing fintechs as competitors. So we need input from the banks, the financial institutions. They have the money, but the fintechs or the startups do not have the money. We can work together and have better solutions. For example, at where I work, or the company I'm from, Zofi Cash, we are changing Africa's 30-day cycle. We believe it is outdated. People shouldn't have to wait for 30 days to get paid. But I can bet, and the banks know that the impact of that is when if people are paid, let's say, on a weekly basis or bi-weekly, there's constant flow of money in the economy. It helps the businesses, and it also helps the government. But if I went to the bank today to get a facility, they're going to ask me for 5 years of banking history. I don't have that. I just started my business like about a year ago, So we need to collaborate rather than seeing each other as competitors.
Thank you, Paul. Very interesting. Moses, Paul has talked about collaboration between banks and fintechs, which is a very huge topic itself. From your point of view, what exactly do you think needs to be in place to ensure that banks work well with fintechs to develop all of us?
Thank you so much. First of all, from my perspective, we don't view fintechs as competitors. I believe all of us have been learning from one another, and in the beginning looked at each other as competitors, from banks, even from the fintech side. But along the way, we discovered that there was more benefit in working together. The banks have the experience of dealing with the regulation and other aspects which fintechs maybe may not have that expertise in. The fintechs go to the customers and go to the local person that are able to open up those frontiers that wouldn't have gone in our current legacy models. The collaboration between the two becomes important. As a bank, we are a member of FITSPA, which is an organization of fintechs, because we believe there's more collaboration between fintechs and banks. And then in particular, we have different discussions going on with different players on how we can find opportunities together. What we are seeing that is coming out strongly is, one, banks and fintechs developing solutions together, whether the bank becomes like a pipe for financing, or where possible, even upfront a product from a fintech side, but then the bank being the one powering it from behind. So we believe there is more opportunity in working together. What we should, however, be careful on is on how does this grow? What will be the next 5-6 years of this particular opportunity? Can we do more? Can we be able to possibly speed up whatever we are doing? So it's an evolution, but I think we are making great progress in that area, and we do not view our friends in fintechs as competitors. I think the last comment I will give is that as bankers, there's a lot more that we have to do together. And everyone who talks about is banks, 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 banks. But who are the banks may be? Most of the banks we have in the country are largely have been in the country for a long time. We've been here for 110 years. So we stop actually becoming another person but a local person, because 110 years, it means we've been in Uganda more than all the people who could be in this particular room. So we are actually Ugandans who are running these organizations, who are in these particular places, and who are able to help and continue to grow the economies that we are in. And I think banks are playing their part, but there's a lot more we can do and possibly create more opportunities for our people at different levels of the economy.
Yes. What are you doing to ensure that this collaboration works for the purpose of the end users?
Okay, I'll give you a real example that right now we are also undergoing a digital transformation as an institution. One of our products has been nominated for an award. It's a digital mall. And the idea behind it is it's not just an app that allows you access services that are offered by us, but it's an app that allows all kinds of people to be able to access. You have your USSDs, you have your utility payments available there, and we are working with local fintechs that have got access to different customers and different databases to facilitate things like payment. If you're going to pay bills in umeme or you're going to pay bills with water, we are not positioned to do that, but they have got access and have had relationships with these different providers to facilitate up to the bottom of the pyramid, to be able to access whether they're going to be loans, whether they're going to be payments, whatever kind of, whether it's going to be savings, and want to go down to the level where it is supermarkets, it is what. So there's a lot of opportunity for the bottom of the pyramid to access all kinds of financial services, whether it will be insurance, whether microinsurance. One of the problems we are facing recently is a customer who is taking a facility for a short time, but you require them to insure for a very long period. I mean, the insurance I want to take is for, maybe it's for 1 month. Why should it be one size fits all? So that's the beauty that fintechs bring in. There's a lot of creativity around their thinking.
Thank you, Samuel. A lot of fintech is being said. First, a simple one before I give you the actual question. In Movit, I know you're not a fintech, but you're a very big organization across East Africa, Southern Africa, and in other markets. Have you onboarded on things like e-commerce, e-payments? Are we able to do what I'm trying to ask? Do you have an e-commerce platform for Movit, or you are still also relying on analog trade?
Interestingly, Movit Products being a Pan-African entity, we really rely on innovation and technology to ensure that we enhance the delivery of our products across the different entities in which we operate. So yes, we have onboarded onto e-commerce, and that is a platform that you can all utilize for most of our products. But also internally, we are considering, coming up with an app, which is already work in progress, where we can always interact and ensure that we have that captured in there. So you'll be really surprised to note that is something we are big on, and we really intend to take it further, given the nature of our interaction, engagement, strategy, and the different countries in which we operate across Africa. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Connie. Moving on with you. With all the positive things that have been said, there are a lot of gains that we are all seeing. What do you think needs to be done to ensure that we, one, safeguard these gains, but also achieve more in this digital and financial inclusion drive?
Firstly, I would like to appreciate the fact that this platform has been all-encompassing. I think the first panel was such an eye-opener to most of us, because it had that really honest discussion from what we need to see. And being a woman and a mother, I totally could, relate that. But above all, what we stand for as Movit products, which is enhancing everyday living and boosting, the confidence of the women, the men, in ensuring that they all, capture and are able to benefit from the bigger picture. So in this discussion, we've looked at, COVID-19, the impact it has had on us, what we can pick from it. But for me, what stands out is the lessons and the impact it has had on the different sectors, whether it's the banking sector, whether it's the beauty and cosmetics sector. We've all had avenues to learn from. So it takes us to the next level, which speaks more to collaboration and having those strategic partnerships and engagements that ensure that we foster progress together, because this affects all of us. And we have listened in and realized that, okay, maybe we can contribute this way. The banks maybe could come in and establish how they can bring, the credit facilities to across the different levels without paying attention more to one particular sector. The fintechs are in. We have had, okay, yes, they're quite ambitious, while the banking sector, want to regulate a bit. We, on the other hand, from, the manufacturing side, we've seen how to tap on these opportunities. Because for us, for example, if I'm to speak for Movit products, we did utilize this opportunity to, focus on the production of sanitizer, which has actually kept the wider community, benefited everybody, both at the varying fronts. So for me, it's all about collaboration, partnerships, and also speaking more to the needs from the grass, root level to the top level. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Connie. Ivan. Yes, let us talk something about the law. How is the legal framework in Uganda helping in the drive to achieve financial inclusion for the poor? I know there are several new laws in place. I've seen several fintech companies now have new licenses. Several of them are very happy. The startups can't do anything about it because most of it, they don't have money. Those ones that have acquired licenses. Let me understand. How does the law help financial inclusion?
Thank you for that. Well, the 11 big players, I don't know if they can be exactly put in the 11 licensed players under the NPS Act. I don't know if they can exactly be put in the class of the mamas who are here. But that speaks to the point that our laws, our NPS Act, which attempts to regulate fintech, does not anywhere mention women, does not anywhere mention poor. But let me get back to the point of what the ladies said here. In the interactions with UNDP, UNCDF, SafeBoard, and Jumia, they have had issues with their customers rejecting goods that they take to them and them making very many losses. That speaks to, one, if you're to come into the e-commerce market as a player, the same age-old values of doing business apply. Are you trustworthy? Do you have a complaints handling method procedure? Do you have a disputes procedure? How do you handle complaints like those? Do you have data protection policies and what have you? There are laws that regulate that. There is no e-commerce act in Uganda per se, but there are different laws that have e-commerce chapters. The Electronic Transactions Act has something on that. NITA, with its regulations, has something on that. For example, each player that plays in the e-commerce space must have a data protection policy clear on their website. must have a complaints handling policy clear on their website, must have a dispute resolution policy clear on their website. In other words, those mamas say they reached out to Safe Board. I don't know how true that is. They reached out to Safe Board, and Safe Board told them we are handling, but nothing has ever been handled. So how clear, how express, or how helpful are the complaints handling procedures of an e-commerce player? If someone comes to you with a complaint and says, your driver messed up my produce, your driver messed up my this and that, can you get them a solution? But guess what? There's another argument that the Safe Borders and Jumias of this world have. They say they are platforms, they're intermediaries. In other words, we create for you the space to make money. What happens between you and your consumer is none of our business. For us, we have created for you the space to connect the consumer. But that is also a problem because actually it has come under a lot of attack in the Western world where it first originated from. Because the argument is unless we have a role in making that loss, that is when we are liable. But perhaps they can be able to act on, say, their drivers and what have you. So there are laws in place which you just need to know. Like the lady said, there's need for awareness. Electronic Transactions Act, NITA has regulations on that. Electronic Signatures Act, Computer Misuse Act, and a couple of others. There's the NPS Act that now governs the fintech space. So the law is there, but of course we need to create awareness and help. Like the lady said, they need, I'm forgetting the Uganda term they use, but they need us to go to their spaces and help them know these things and help them find solutions to them. So the law is there, yes, but of course, as you know, it's up to you. At the end of the day, it's up to you to implement the law. If you sit back and you don't know the law, then you may keep on crying that there is no law, but there are laws in place.
All right, thank you, Ivan.
Yes.
Samuel and Moses, I know banks always look at the future. You do plans for 5, 10 years, among others. I know you are not prophets, but I want you to look in the future and tell us what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years in matters financial inclusion. Where do you think we shall be in the next 5 years? We begin with Samuel.
Okay. Yes, I'm not a prophet, but I see trends. I know there's a lot happening in the technology space, innovation, and it's not just affecting Uganda. We have people like Elon Musk who intend to put hundreds of thousands of satellites in orbit. And what that will do is it's going to enable access to internet in the most rural of areas. So you'll realize that even deep in the village where I come from, where if I'm sending my mom a WhatsApp message or what, she has to get up 5 kilometers away from home before she can access. But once that happens, access to the internet, quick internet, fast internet, and affordable internet is going to be something that is available for everybody. Therefore, it means that a lot of the services that we are consuming are going to be facilitated online as opposed to physical interaction. So what I see is a lot of the banks, like ourselves, we see it already. The things that we are doing at the moment are geared towards enabling the rural community, enabling them to have access to ability to save. We are not deposit taking as yet, but that is something that we are working on at the moment. But we are seeing that all this capability out there, a lot of people, I'll give an example. There was a farmer, was it in Kapchora? So we were passing by, and I was told, do you see that gentleman, that house? A very small house. He's just sold his Irish potatoes at, was it about 100 million shillings? Irish. But he hadn't taken it to any bank. You get it? Because it is so remote. I mean, going to that area, it was 60 kilometers to go to that place, but it took over 3 hours. So why would that guy take 100 million, deposit it in Mbale or Kapchora, and when he wants to access it to buy whatever he needs to buy, again, there's the inconvenience of traveling. There's security, insurance, and all that kind of inconvenience. What I see is when a farmer like that one is going to sell his Irish, there will be a platform that will facilitate the movement of e-money between whoever he's selling to him, and he's very comfortable having that money in electronic form. So in 5 years, I think it's going to happen much, much faster than we think it is. We think Ugandans are a bit slow in accepting these technologies, but in 5 years, I see an exponential growth in the rural community being able to do all these transactions online.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Moses, tell us.
Thank you so much. I think I will focus on two major areas that are happening in our sector. There's been a lot of discussion about profit versus purpose, and why you're here and why do you exist and do business every single day. And that discussion, where that's happening more at a global and corporate level, but you have to bring it back to every financial services provider wherever you are. Whatever you do, if it does not enable and empower the people to become better, then you don't have a long-term future in that market. So whatever we build should be able to address and be able to impact the local person, including what your services, how you offer them, and even how you price them. Is it relevant to the person on the ground? When you bring it then back to us that we must then think about impact more than profit. I know we want money, we are providers of financial services, we want money, but can I be able to make money in a way that empowers the consumer more? When you see the emergence of blockchain and other cryptocurrencies and other different digital currencies, they're trying to reduce the gap that those impediments that used to be there between the consumer and the provider in the long term. So they're able to narrow the gap and able to make services much simpler, easier, and then affordable. What we see happening in our world, we see an increase in technology, but most importantly, the increase in customer adoption. We see more women, more men, and more youth embracing technology. What will come with it will be the challenges like cyber, which we can't have from this conversation man is talking about, because as fraud in those days was people would bombard you with 100 million and take it away. Now they have to steal it from your mobile phone, from any provider that you have. So as providers, we have to think about, as customers go to the different platforms, how do we keep them secure? How do we ensure that we're able to educate them? And I'm happy that the question the ask that came in from our mothers who are here earlier was, come and educate us. Because with education and empowerment, then we ensure that every consumer, wherever they go, as they are more empowered beyond their own, they can be able to transact and remain secure. If we do not emphasize on security and awareness of the people, then the gains that we will provide in our different platforms, however much you do, will be lost. That empowerment becomes a very important area for us. So we see a lot more adoption, and this engine is not reversing. It keeps getting better every single day.
Thank you. Paul, from where you sit, next 5 years, how does the fintech ecosystem look like? And what do you think we would have achieved in the next 5 years?
Right. There's so much to achieve. I am glad I met Kasaiba. He's a very innovative person. But there's so much out there in terms of new technologies that are coming out, new solutions. Definitely there's going to be more, but what would I want to see happen? Collaboration. Now, collaboration is much easier said than done. The reason as to why we're seeing the startups attracting investment from outside countries, it is because the financials here have failed to see the value what fintechs or startups are bringing on the table. And it is sad. It is sad. Why should I go to the US to raise, let's say, $5 million when StanChart or Stanbic has it? You know? Let's collaborate. Let's see the business opportunity. There are so many business opportunities. Like, if I just hearing the mothers talking, I can tell you, I had about 5 different business opportunities. You know, they need people who can reach out to them and educate them. That alone is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Educating, okay? They need people who can fulfill the last mile. Now that comes back to us, the people who are building these technologies. How do we make sure that these mothers are not cheated? Let's fine-tune our business models. You know, let's try to go a little out of the box. Let's try to go a little further than the traditional way of transacting. The good news is the tools are there right now. Maybe we need to have discussions or conversations with the people who are enabling the technology, such as the ISPs, the MTNs, the Airtels, to bring down the costs of data. Because if data was cheaper and M-Copper is able to provide her with a phone, at the end of the day, MTN is making money, but M-Copper also makes money, and whoever that is in the whole cycle makes money rather than having one player taking the biggest share. You know, we need to have, or we need to see more collaboration, and not just saying it, but putting it in action.
Right, thank you. Connie, as we conclude, from where you sit, what do you think are the key learnings from the banks and the fintechs that you believe will help enhance financial inclusion?
I think what will really help, majorly two things. That is innovation, but innovation thriving on relationships. Okay, beyond partnerships, you have, a striking relationship, and that should be backed up by awareness. From one of the gentlemen mentioned that listening into the initial panel, they did realize tremendous opportunities. Now these will keep coming because most of us need to, survive, and we've seen the many ways that we can actually do that. However, if we are not informed about how we can, tap into the different opportunities we have to offer, then that might also hinder the financial inclusion in the long run. And unfortunately, the biggest percentage of the people who suffer are I would like to say, the women. I'll give you an example. When I came up to give the hampers to the ladies, you did mention that we should extend, the financial services to them. And I would like to let you know that actually that happens with Movit products. We do have a range of financial facilities or services that we extend to our distributors, but unfortunately, in this case, it speaks more to the salon owners, the retailers, which might not affect the market segment, but we're also looking into that. What I'm trying to say is that with these facilities there, where you can say, get goods on credit and then be able to, pay as and when it comes through, or where we can actually guarantee you as our partner or a distributor to be able to get financial services from one of the banks because we have relationships with the banks. But if you do not know that you can tap into that, then the innovation is as good as what it is, and then we'll suffer where we are. So for me, for the future, and from this discussion, I see those three parameters: a lot of innovation hinged on relationships and impactful awareness that can empower the holistic community to be able to utilize the services and be able to, thrive for the better and the future.
Thank you, Connie. As we wrap up this, I think my three takeaways have been goodwill, collaboration, and relationships. Those three are going to be key. Thank you for being here today. You'll go out for a group photo for the panel. I've had Ivan Ojakol, who is a lawyer in trade and technology. I've had Paul Kirungi, who is the CEO of Zovi Cash. I've had Moses Lutahingwa, Head Consumer, Private and Business Banking at Standard Chartered. I've had Connie Nancha, Head Communications, Corporate Affairs at Movit Uganda, Movit Group. I've also had Samuel Ochaya, who is the Head of Financial Inclusion at Letsego. Allow me introduce Mr. Agre Mugisha, the CEO of Your TV Channels. He's going to deliver a brief speech on a theme that is very clear: local content video on demand. How Your TV Channels has been able to grow to 1 million customers in a space of 2 years. Agre Mugisha, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, hi people, for this. I've been part of this for a very long time, and I always look forward to them. I am Agre Mugisha. I am the CEO of Your TV Channels. I have a very brief story to tell you about your TV channels. It could inspire you to go into innovation, or it could scare you away from innovation. So about 5 years ago, I and my partner set out to sort out a problem that we identified. We realized how busy the world was, how busy our country was, people busy on the streets, the markets and borders and the corporates and everybody rush hour and getting home, and the news is done, and people don't have time to sit and watch TV, and when they go home they are tired and all this kind of thing. And we said, okay, how do we sort out this issue? And we said, what about we aggregate content, live TV, live radio, and we have over 70 TV stations and over 300 radio stations that we have in the country, and we put them under one app, and someone doesn't have to download. Let's assume that these 300 radio stations, each one of them innovated an app. One doesn't have to download 300 apps of different radio stations on one phone, or download 70 apps of different TV stations on their phone, okay? How can one have a mobile phone and have TV on there, and have radio on there, and be able to and have it interactive, you know? And so we said, we are gonna bring TV on a smartphone, and we're gonna make it very interactive and ensure that a user is able to rewind TV up to 4 days. Let's say you missed it, you were busy, you can rewind up to 4 days, you can record it, you know, you can set a reminder, you can do whatever you want with a stream, okay? And so we aggregated these TVs and radios, and we brought them on the app, and we called that app Your TV Channels. But then we realized that we are challenged as a nation internet-wise, data-wise. Streaming data is very, very expensive. You can't afford to stream in Uganda unless otherwise. So we found out that if someone has to stream for about 1 hour, they probably could be using between 1.5 to 2 GB. That could take you up to, maybe between 5 to 10,000 shillings. Now, for a Ugandan, that's quite some money to be spending on just one app to stream. And we weren't looking at the middle class. We were looking at, what about the border guy? The guy right below the pyramid. What about the lady? What about our mothers in the markets who have smartphones? Are they able to catch the news? Are they able to stay abreast of what's happening? So we partnered with MTN, and we had our app, Your TV Channels, 0 rated, and to be able to use absolutely no data while you stream, okay? And so we got Your TV Channels 0 rated, and when one uses Your TV Channels app, you don't have to worry about data, because you can stream TV, you can stream radio, and you won't have to worry about data at all. And so when I moved to border stages and I moved through the markets, I find my old women and my sisters and my brothers on border stages streaming while waiting for customers. And that's why we invented this app. That's why we innovated Your TV Channels. So that's really what Your TV Channels is all about. It's an online streaming platform that aggregates local content and makes it available to a user seamlessly and conveniently wherever they are. If you're in Uganda, that's easy. Your unique identifier is your local number. Your Airtel number or your MTN number, you just put it in. We send you a PIN, a 4-digit PIN, and you put it in, and the moment you have that done, then you are signed up. You download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, and you sign up. Using your number, we send you a PIN, and then you're in. You have over 60 TV stations, a bunch of radio stations on there. There are movies over there. And so that's our journey. We launched our app in February last year, And as of now, we are talking about 970,000 subscribers on the app. That's in a period of less than 2 years. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, no innovation in our space has been able to do that. StarTimes didn't do that. DSTV didn't do that. Why we were able to do that is because we were able to identify with the guy at the bottom of the pyramid, the border guy, the market vendor person, the taxi guy, the Uber guy, and that is to be able to subsidize data on that app. That's what we did. So at the moment, as I speak to you, it is the cheapest proposition in this space in the entire East African region, your TV channels. It's a Ugandan product, and I think we should give that up. We should give it up for your TV channels to be able to be a Ugandan product. It's not a product that's owned by Europeans or some American or someone, and it's an extension in Uganda. No, it's purely owned by Ugandans. It's an innovation by Ugandans. And so that is our journey up to 970,000 subscribers. So have we been challenged? Yes, absolutely. We have been challenged. And our challenge is the mindset, breaking the walls in the mind that TV changes from the wall to the smartphone. That you can watch TV in a taxi, that you can watch TV in an Uber going home. So people are getting used to that. But it's a journey, and we believe that we will get there. I see people consuming TV, I see people consuming radio in the next 2-3 years only on smartphones, because a smartphone at the moment is able to do absolutely everything. So do I see the traditional TV going away and smartphones adopting how people consume content? Absolutely, yes. And so we are absolutely in the future. That's what I see. So we are here, and we're saying we got challenged there, the mindset. We are challenged because the content, we made this platform for local content creators, young people who create content, the comedians, the young actors and actresses. They create content, but they can't commercialize it because they don't have a marketplace for it. And we are saying we are able to have this content sold on your TV channels. You create your content, you approach us, and we are able to put a price to it, 1,000. We are nominated here for Chibanda Express. Us and MTN came up with a product called Chibanda Express. We partnered with a local movie production company called Pearlwood, and they put their movies on the platform. And right now, they're making more money than they ever made before they came on a digital platform, your TV channels, Pearlwood. So the young people who produced movies, they put the movies on DVDs, but those movies, they had 1,000 copies made from downtown by these pirates, and the movies were sold, but they never saw any money because someone else made the money. But now, they don't put any movie on a DVD. The movie goes straight to the app, and they are able to sell it because you and I go there and buy it at 1,000 shillings, and the money goes straight to them, and they're able to produce more. So that's how we are able to do this. And so the issue in there is that they are challenged as well. The content production, the quality of production is still low, and it needs to go up there and to get Ugandans to appreciate local content. I call upon you, ladies and gentlemen, to support our local movie producers, our local actors, our local actresses. Go on there on your TV channels app, look for Chibanda Express, purchase a home-produced movie, okay? That's how Nigeria got there, that's how Angola got there, that's how Mexico got there, consuming our own content on there. And 1,000 shillings and 2,000 makes 5 and makes 10,000 and makes 20,000, and it enables them to go back in the production house and producing another one. And 2 years, 5 years from now, we have a Bollywood, we have a Nollywood, that's how it starts, but it starts with you and I being able to do it. So how does the future look like? The future looks like this, absolutely exciting. I'm really excited about the IPTV future. Why? Because we are, my brother over here talked about Elon Musk's plans, and I believe that we are going to have an exponential internet penetration, internet growth. Internet is going to go out there. It's not going to remain as expensive as it is. I don't think so. And so as internet grows, we have more people able to stream. We are talking about, I had a few stats here. Well, 9.7 smartphones at the moment we have in the country. The only problem is more than half of these smartphones are substandard smartphones, and they can only probably work with basic apps, basic browsing apps, you know. And so, but this is also going away with the phone manufacturers, because the new versions are coming better. The new phones that come, if it's an Infinix that came last year, if they produce an Infinix now, you get a better Infinix. So even the smartphones, we are getting better smartphones. So we have a higher smartphone penetration than we had last year. We have more internet growth. We are talking about between March and June this year, we have internet users growing from 21.5 million to 21.9 million, growing to about 325,000 new internet users. That is some growth. So I see beautiful things happening in the streaming world, and we, as your TV channels, we are saying that we are going to go on a battle to even subsidize internet more on this your TV channels app, that the least person in the village, that instead of buying a TV for your grandmother, for your mom, for your dad in the village, no, you give them a smartphone where they can send you a WhatsApp and they can do so many other things, and they are still able to watch TV and listen to that radio on that same phone. Because it's able to do so many other things, okay? So we are saying families will be streaming on their smartphones, and all of us will be streaming on the streets and streaming on the markets and streaming on border stages, wherever people are using their smartphones to be able to stream. And speaking of our community in the diaspora, we are there too. Our people in the diaspora are able to stream. Our sisters in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in the entire Middle East, in Europe, they're able to stream using your TV channels. We brought our local content closer to them. So we believe that the future is absolutely bright in the streaming world. Here in Uganda, in the streaming space, we are looking forward for great things come 2022. So everyone here, please download the Your TV Channels app. The sign-up process is very easy. Register, key in your number, get a PIN, put it in, and you are opened up to multiple TV stations and radio stations, and all local content is absolutely on there, and international channels are on there. So we believe that you shouldn't have to struggle being late to go home and watch TV. You do not need it. You have everything in your pocket on your smartphone. Thank you very much. That's the journey of your TV channels. That's how we've been able to grow up over 970,000 subscribers. And by end this month, probably going into 1 million subscribers on the platform in a period of less than 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, our program is almost coming to an end, so don't you worry about that. But and we'll be served lunch towards the end of it. But also, please get me that Fresco pizza. Fresco is also our partners. For this year's Digital Impact Awards. Fresco, somebody get me Fresco pizza here. Today is quite interesting and different discussions. By the time you leave this place, if you don't get to learn something out of it, then I'm afraid you may never, you know. I am called the King of Radio, Wesley. I work with I am the PRO, Hi People. Okay, here we are. All right, I want to do something here real quick. I want to be a chief tester, you know. If you want to try, a piece is just 50,000, don't you worry. But with Wendy, you can try, don't worry. The next panel discussion is going to be an amazing one. It's looking into gender gap status in financial success as well. So what is the status of the gender gap in the financial status? Those are some of the questions that Wendy here will be addressing with her team. So let me invite the team to come through. So if I read your name, please come through and real quick so that we have this done. We'll have Miss Elizabeth Atkunda, a lawyer, financial services, and is also our first panelist. We'll have Cleopatra Kanyonyuzi, coding instructor and team lead at Club Tangaza. We'll also have Damali Sali, founder of Ideation Corner. And also we'll have Flavia Elena Kasenge, Chief Operating Officer, Easy Money Limited, and also Lydia Nakamia, the head of digital banking and partnership, Standard Chartered Bank, Uganda. If you've not clapped, you too, you'll give birth to your children. They invite them and they never clap for them. I'm a Bible-believing person. What you sow is what you do what? Thank you very much. God bless you. So ladies and gentlemen, our panelists, and of course, the chief questionnaire and panelists, moderator, Wendy Namfo. Please clap for her.
So thank you so much, Wesley, for introducing my panel. Ladies, I'm very honored to be here with you today. Sitting with some of the smartest ladies in the fintech industry, it's a big honor. So I'm very excited to be here and more excited about the discussion we're going to be having. So just to jump right into it, our discussion today will be mainly focused on the gender gap status in financial access. So from different reports, we've seen that at least one of the GSMA report of 2020 did state that the financial inclusion gender gap is actually now at 9%, but in Uganda, it's actually at 13%. So let's not also ignore the fact that for many years, we've seen that women have not really had a lot of access to financial products. And this has even worsened because of the pandemic that we've been going through. So just a brief from the entire team. I would like to just understand what your view is in a minute or two on what the status of the gender gap in financial access is in Uganda and how the COVID-19 pandemic has put women's empowerment and gender equality at risk. And then we'll go through the rest of the questions to help us understand the topic better.
So my name is Cleopatra and I'm so glad to be here, with this amazing panel of very, very informed women in the fintech space, okay? They are game changers. And I also want to recommend High People for the first panel that we had, the market leaders. It was so refreshing. We were all nodding in agreement as we listened to the ladies tell us their experience, because at the end of the day, these are the people that are handling or dealing with the issues that we are trying to address. So it was very refreshing to get their feedback on so many aspects. So back to you, Wendy. The gender gap in financial access, according to a report by World Bank, over 1 billion women still do not have access to financial services and systems. COVID-19 worsened this situation. Again, according to World Bank, over 63 billion jobs, okay, that were recently held by women were lost due to COVID-19. So that number is very huge. And if you look at Uganda, because those are global stats, fine, but Uganda has not been excluded because when the lockdowns were implemented and all that, so many businesses shut down. And if you look at women are twice as entrepreneurial as men are. So meaning they are the owners of most of the small businesses, and they are mostly in the service and hospitality industries. So their businesses were really so much affected. So and we have not yet recovered. Yes, we heard from the ladies who are down on ground, owners of SMEs and whatnot. They gave us the picture. They're like, we are still struggling. We have not recovered. We are still struggling. So it's not a good picture, Wendy. It's not a good one.
Thank you very much, Cleopatra. I'd like to hear from you, Flavia. What are your thoughts?
So money is everyone's love, everyone's trouble. So what is financial access? When we talk about financial access, what do we exactly mean by that? In simple terms, financial access is how to access money. How can we easily access money in this country, whether it's through borrowing or whether it is through funding? So for the women out there, so money, if we get to understand what financial access is, then we'll be able to include the girl child. We have to be able to include the girl child, make sure that we innovate them and as well upskill them. That is the reason why we are here today.
Thank you very much, Flavia. Elizabeth.
So I'm going to first start with defining what financial inclusiveness is, right? To be financially included, as per the World Bank, means to have affordable, accessible financial services that meet your needs. If somebody can say that they have affordable, accessible financial services that meet their needs, then as per the World Bank, they are deemed to be financially included. Now, when it comes to women, so when it comes to gender and financial inclusion, yeah, the question really is between the two genders, which the recognized ones are male and female, what is the rate of financial inclusion of male in comparison to females? In Uganda, and I feel that it's true for the world over, there is more females than males. But then, for Uganda in particular, the last report I read indicated that 23% females are financially, 23%, 23 million females, as opposed to 22 million men. That is how we stand, population-wise. Still then, women are slightly less financially included than men, meaning women have less access to affordable and functional and meaningful financial products. So when Wendy asks me what I think about this state of affairs, I feel that as women, as Ugandan women, we have always perceived finance to be a man thing, you know? Households in Uganda have budgets run by women, but the money to run the budget comes from the man. So daddy comes home, gives you 200K every week, 200,000 shillings every week or whatever, and says, I'll give you the money, and then you, the extent of your creativity and your financial ability only goes as far as planning how much to buy from what I've given you, right? And be that as it may, it's not to say that it is the male that dictates this. It's not always the male that dictates it, and you can tell because this particular person that's giving you that 200K has never said, go and get your own, has never said, never, ever, ever go and bring a 200K, you know? That's not really the case. But it is acceptable in our society to perceive finance and issues of finance as a male thing. And when it comes to perception, it's difficult to explain because different reasons, different socio-economic, religious factors bring people to certain spaces. So, Wendy, I feel that as women in Uganda, and generally in the world, and usually the less developed nations, females have fewer access to meaningful financial services. The reasons notwithstanding, that's the case.
Thank you very much for your submission, Elizabeth. And yes, it's very true. We've seen that women have less access to formal financial services. We tend to gravitate to going for, you know, asking maybe money from friends or saving in smaller circles and things like that. And the next question comes to you still, Elizabeth. What is the gender gap picture in official identification or like the national IDs?
Right. So for Uganda in particular, I feel that the issue of national identity became an actual issue in 2016. That's when NERA operations, you know, became known to us, that we all, it's going to come to a point where we all need this particular ID. Before that, most of us generally had a birth certificate, right? If you have a birth certificate, then if you travel, maybe you will need a passport, which usually acquire when you realize you might need to travel, whatever time that comes to you. But before that, before the national ID and before NERA, which I believe has done an outstanding job in having data for at least 60% Ugandans currently, and the process is continuing. I feel that that is one of the most important things that happened to us as a nation when it comes to organization. Now, when it comes to gender and the issue of identification, most females, even for us when we were in our formative years, did not see the obtainance of an ID as something that we needed for our identification. It only came up when you had to. It's something you had to do. Obtaining identification, even in this time of NERA, is not only costly, it's also time-consuming. When you go to the NERA offices, we had to do that whole registration thing where we queued up from 6 to 6, you know. Then they tell you after that you go to the place of your registration to obtain your national ID, but we all know that most IDs were not where you registered. So you had to go to another place where all the IDs were, then they sort for you. Process, like the process of obtaining an ID in itself, even with the advances we have made, is difficult, and more so for women who are burdened with the domestic issues of a house. How can a woman who has just given birth and has 3 children at home go to NERA and sit the whole day on those benches, that place that looks like a, you know how the airstrip, you know?
Yes.
You sit there for morning, you are breastfeeding, you have 3 children at home, your husband is asking where you are, and all this you're doing to get an ID. So most women who are financially constrained, who are constrained for time, yeah? Sitting there all day, getting that 50K to pay, right? Sitting in the heat all day, it's still a long process to obtain ID. But since the government saw it wise, and I feel that this is one of the best things they did to push this process along, to attach our SIM card registration to the possession of a national ID, many people, whether they had the time or the funds or not, then had to obtain a national ID, because then your phone won't be on, then you don't have mobile money, then you don't have access to so many things. So even then, and this is to answer Wendy's question, there is nearly the same number of women with national ID as there are men with national ID currently, at the rate of 60% identification, but still there are more men who have used the ID to register a SIM card as opposed to females. Because many females who forget that this is attached to the access to financial services will register their SIM card in their husband's names. So when they are giving out reparations for COVID, when you're trying to send money, you're trying to do business, this SIM card, the one key you have to financial access and freedom, is in your husband's names. That, Wendy, I think is something for us as females to discuss, but...
Yeah, it's very absurd and it's quite common. Very interesting submission there, Elizabeth. Cleopatra, I know Elizabeth touched base on some of the issues. The next question we're going to be talking about. How do we make use of the frameworks and resources, such as Level 1 project, to place women at the center of financial inclusion advocacy? You know, what platforms can we use? What social norms are hindering this progress?
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, so, hello? Okay, sorry. All right. So how do we use frameworks, existing frameworks, like Level 1 project, okay? Now, this goes to the creators of financial services, the designers of these financial services. You have to keep women in mind. Get them involved in the process, like all the way. When you're gathering the requirements, go down, okay, to that end user, right? Go down to the end user. Pick pick data from them, understand what their aspirations are, okay? Like we've had, we had the ladies from the first panel, the market leaders. They were telling us what they would desire financial institutions and digital financial service providers to offer them, okay? Now that is the sort of information that we need, okay? The decision makers, we have the bankers here and the FITSPA officials and so on. These are the people that you need to be dealing with, okay? So reach out to these women, understand their aspirations, understand their limitations. All right? Still from the first panel, I listened very keenly, okay? Because as a developer myself, software engineer, I'm interested in designing products that are going to help such communities. So they talked about being given funds on credit, okay? Such that they are able to access some of these financial services that are digital, all right? Now, if you have all this data before you begin designing products for them, you're actually going to create greater impact when you finally roll it out to such communities, all right? Then still again to the fintech stakeholders, people who make decisions and design products for these communities. Get these people involved, okay? And have targets, have numerical targets that you set. Like we had Moses from the panel just before us. Moses, I'm forgetting the bank he's from. So he talked about how they identified particular districts and went and did upskilling, and what they realized was that there was greater impact, okay, that they created in that community. And also from your TV, the CEO, very commendable job you're doing, right? So he gave us his winning formula. He's like, yo, I was able to outcompete DSTV, GoTV, and all these other companies because I went down and worked with the end user. Okay? I talked to the end user. I worked with them. I worked with them. I understood what they need. I understood their aspirations. I understood their limitations. I understood their resources. Okay? Because I still noted he talked about data, and boy, data is such a big deal. I personally, I use Liquid Telecom, so I pay monthly for my data. I'm a big data user. So on those days when I have to pay for data and I'm buying a GB to just stream a certain video, I feel the pain, okay? So imagine this is what other Ugandans are probably going to. People who cannot probably have access to such unlimited data. This is what they have to go through every day, okay? So understand the end user that you're targeting, okay? Have numerical targets. If you want to help women, include as many women as possible at the grassroots. Set the target again. Let's say in this year, we plan to reach like 3 million women, probably in northern Uganda, okay? And then work towards that target. So that is going to take you actually down to ground, okay? You're not going to make all the decisions in Kampala, and yet you're targeting women who are in the northern region. So you're going to go down, and then when you start working with these women, with these ladies, with marginalized groups, you're going to understand their needs better and thereby design products that are actually going to help them, that they're actually going to adopt.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So
thank you so much, Cleopatra. You make a very good point. I think more women should be included in such boards or designing of products, because I believe as a woman, you know exactly the pain points of another woman. And Dameli, what has changed in the gender gap in the mobile phone ownership over the last 3 years? How do we ease women's onboarding?
Thank you, Wendy. Maybe before I get into the question, I wanted to, kind of like my colleagues, talk about financial access for women, because it's very important. The first panel here talked about, one of the number one things they kept mentioning is the fact that COVID 2020 hit them, but not as hard as 2021. Because in 2020, they lost their capital. 2021, they could not even access any more money, even from the money lenders or the banks or wherever it is. So when we're talking about a financial access, we need to talk about financial access from the point of recovery. So it was already bad enough before, but now after COVID, it's hit women, okay, almost everyone, but it's hit women even further. So it's taken them like 3 steps backward. So we need to figure out a way to ensure that they recover. And in beginning to do this, we need to look at data, information, basically, statistics, information, because that's what is supposed to inform what we do. If you look, I kept looking around for information to do with informal trade, informal domestic trade. You could barely find those numbers. But if you think about the woman who used to sell casole in the night, the woman who was actually maybe selling lumonde, this roast lumonde on the road, and then what has happened to them in the curfews. What happened to that woman? What happened to her capital? What happened to her kids, who she used to feed from the money she got from the time? And the only data I have that I could get is informal cross-border trade, because that one is collected by the government at the borders, though even what is collected is not the full extent of informal trade that's happening at the borders. So in 2019, before COVID hit, we had our informal traders at the borders sold $500 million worth of goods to our neighbors. Just think about it. That's $500 million worth of goods to our neighbors in informal things like beans, maize, all that. It's a lot of money. So and 80% of the people who are in informal trade at the borders are women. So this trade entirely ceased to happen during the lockdowns. 500 million Uganda shillings. So when it stopped, it means those women who were at the border selling these things, okay, 80%, the other 20% is men. But it means that those women ate into their capital. So they are now farther behind than they were before. So we need to figure out a way to make sure that they recover. But that number I have is only for informal cross-border trade. I don't know how much domestic informal trade has been hit. We don't have the number, so we need to be able to get the statistics. Then in terms of women who are doing formal businesses, Uganda has the highest number of women entrepreneurs in the world. We are #1 Ugandan women, and it's at 40%. But, thank you, should be celebrated. But that 40%, which is the highest number in the world, those women are less likely to have access to money, capital. So normally what they do is a woman entrepreneur looks at her own savings, her family, she asks her husband, her brother, her cousins, everyone, but she doesn't have access to formal means of finance. So she's less likely to have access, because when you go to a bank, they're going to ask for, a land title, a car log. We are less likely to have a land title or a car log. So then the other thing about women is that we are very risk averse. So inherently, we are less likely to go to a bank to get the loans. But even those few who are cautious enough, but are like, you know what, my business makes sense, let me go to the bank and get a loan, they're going to ask for requirements that you can't even anyway access. So there is no point. So despite these hurdles, I still like to celebrate that Uganda, we are the #1 in the world, women entrepreneurs. We have the highest number despite these hurdles. Imagine if we didn't have the hurdles, we would be like, at 51%. We would be, farther ahead in the world than we actually are. So that's my take on the financial inclusion component. The question you asked me about access to mobile phones in Uganda, from the studies I've seen, and I'm always looking for information. I'm usually reading reports, but also this is information that is anecdotal. So the GSMA study that will happen in 2021, the most recent one, indicated that women are 7% less likely to have a handset than men. And going back to the first panel that was here, we know why. The ladies, the market leaders told us that, yes, it's difficult for them to have access to a handset. And in fact, they recommended for the mobile networks that if I've been with you for 3-4 years, why would you not give me, via my SIM card, why would you not give me a handset that I can pay slowly on credit? So women are 7% less likely than guys to have a handset. Then the report also indicated that women are 20% less likely to use their phone beyond receiving and making phone calls. And so and usually the main reason they give for this is that women, first of all, we are time poor. We don't have that much time. So we're going to spend less time on our phone, because if I go back to the first panel, they have to go back home, they have to feed their kids, they have to worry about, I left all my 3 kids at home and I don't know what they're doing. So the phone call you're making is mostly calling your daughter, making sure she's at home at 5 p.m. You're making sure she's in the house. She's not being made pregnant because of COVID. So they have less time to basically play around with the phone, and therefore they use their phone 20% as less as men. The other statistics, it indicated that women are 28% less likely to access the internet through their phone. And key reasons is because one, the language barrier, the knowledge about how to use it, and what information you're going to access, or do they even know what information to get there? So those are the major constraints in terms of mobile access, especially regarding gender. And the key, I feel when I was listening to the past panel, all the solutions were right there. Access to a phone, if the mobile networks that benefit from someone actually having a handset can give credit phones, phone by credit, where people pay back by slowly, that will help in enabling more women for us to close this gap of 7%. It will help because the biggest problem to accessing a handset is the cost. It's expensive. So you can't afford it, you don't have it. But also, once you don't have it, you can't access finance through the fintechs, through the banks. Anyway, you can't access finance, but then you also can't access the information you need. Then the other bit that they also mentioned, the first panel mentioned, was the fact that they don't have the knowledge. So what would I be using my phone for beyond making a phone call or receiving a phone call if I don't even know how to use it, if I have a smartphone, say, for example, or I don't know the services that are there, even if I have a capability. So we need to talk about, if we're going to talk about financial inclusion in a more constructive way, is to provide the knowledge, the training, the skilling of women who are involved in business, who are involved in trade, who are involved in buying and selling. And this should be provided by the players who are in this sector, who are in the sector of trying to ensure that e-commerce works. One of the ladies on the panels mentioned the fact that, yes, they know the world is moving towards the internet. They know that. It's not like they don't know. It's not like they're not aware. It's just that they don't have the tools. They don't know how to. So how do we ensure that we can provide those tools to them? Then the other component that has to be addressed is also for us to encourage these women to use the mobile phones that they have to do business and do trade and improve their final access, is to ensure that real-time payments are provided. And I think that's one of the principles of the Level 1 project, is that as long as they're not receiving their money in real time, they are basically subsidizing, say, Safe Border. They are giving credit to Safe Border. Can you imagine the lady with her market stall is giving credit to a corporation like Safe Border because she gave her tomatoes to the driver. The driver delivered the tomatoes to Damali. Damali paid, but she hasn't received her money. So she neither has the tomatoes nor does she have her money. So she's given credit to Safe Border. It's outrageous that we would sit in an economy and exploit that woman. In the entire value chain, she's the one who is the most vulnerable. She's the one with the least money. Damali has the money, Safe Border has the money, but she doesn't. She's the one who needs her money the most. So she's the one we are supposed to ensure that the payments do get to her in real time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damali. And Lydia, there is insufficient gender data and analysis to inform decisions. How do we improve this status?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, we must be mindful that we have a larger number of people living in the rural areas. So therefore, we should be, one of the reasons why we don't even have this data is because we have not gone ahead to access the rural areas and find out what exactly is happening at the smallest unit over there. So we have all this data collected from the urban areas. I'm sure if I asked Kampala how many people have mobile phones, everybody knows the numbers offhand. But if I asked how many people in Karamoja have phones, and of those, how many are women, I'll probably have to get a study and over that. So that is something that we really must focus on. We need to go down to the rural areas, to dig deeper, to be hungry for this data, because that's where it all starts. So first of all, we need to go there. And then the second thing that I really think we must focus on is to be able at least to tag a national ID to everybody. And as she shared rightly so, the coverage is only about 60% of the people who are eligible. So there's a 40% where we don't have data at all. So again, you'll find that, say, for NERA, most of the offices are in the rural areas, are in the urban areas. So we probably need to have some more deliberate actions of how are we going to open more offices in the other districts, the other smaller towns, so that at least for starters, we can get a national ID for each one, because then it will tell us, you know, a couple of things about you, and we'll have a central database for this. And thereafter, we can then take it a step further and say, yes, you have a national ID, but you don't have say, a mobile phone, so we might not be able to contact you, but let's have that data point being made in the first place.
Thank you very much, Lydia. I'm pretty sure we shall definitely discuss more. For the interest of time, we'll stop here. Appreciate.
Let's clap for them one more time. Thank you very much, ladies. Let's have our keynote speech from Mr. Ronald Azairwe, the MD, Pegasus Technologies. Please, let's clap for him. So immediately after our panel discussion, we'll definitely go into our awards ceremony, and then our lunch will be served, and after that, we'll depart at once.
I was asked to speak about, what's the acronym again? IIPS, Instant and Inclusive Payment Systems, with a focus on interoperability and the case of a regulated fintech, which we are as Pegasus Technologies. Again, my name is Ronald Azairwe. I'm currently the managing director and one of the founders of Pegasus Technologies. Now, a lot of the time in technology, we like to use acronyms. And some of the times we use these acronyms and they are passed on without really understanding what the acronyms mean, or taking them apart and dissecting them to understand fully what they are. And I think in there we miss some nuances that are very, very important. So quickly, without wasting anyone's time, what do we mean when we talk about instant and inclusive payment systems? I think the words are self-explanatory. Instant means real-time. Any transaction you do should have a real-time end in itself. Whether you're doing a bill payment or you're passing money to a colleague, the moment you send it, the person should receive it. Or you're paying to a merchant, the moment you send your money, the merchant ought to receive it immediately. And you ought to receive that service. And I was told there was a couple of women here, or there were a couple of women here before I came. They were talking about selling their products and receiving the money a couple of days later or a couple of hours later, which removes the concept of instant payments. So part of what we want to focus on is instant payments. The word inclusive means it should be affordable to everyone, and that's a very, very key word, affordability. It should be affordable and accessible to anyone. That's what makes it inclusive. So it should be instant, it should be inclusive. That's what makes a payment system inclusive and instant. The factors that go into doing that are quite a number, and I don't want to bore anyone with the very detailed concept of what makes, or how we, as payment providers, make our payment systems instant and inclusive. But also requested to speak more about the cause of interoperability in that. And the word interoperability itself needs to be deconstructed. What does it mean to say a system is interoperable, or what's interoperability? Now, in the very simplest form, interoperability means that the holder or the user of a system should be able to transact or pass transactions to another system beyond their network. That's what it simply means. You're on MTN. Can you be able to do a transaction to someone on Airtel? That's interoperability. Can you send someone money outside your network? Number two, can you go and transact at a merchant that's been acquired by someone else? If you're an MTN user, can you be able to go and pay at a merchant that was acquired by Airtel? Number three, so again, remember, can you pass money between yourself and another person on another network? Can you be able to pay at a merchant acquired by someone else? So that's what interoperability simply means. Can you transact cross-platform? And in many instances, the answer is no. Okay? Everyone wants to acquire their own merchants, what we call closed loop systems. Everyone wants to have their own merchants, and they have very good reasons for that. It's a very expensive exercise setting up this distribution network, and for someone to set it up, another to simply come late, and then you reuse that, slights the person that set it up in the first place. So there are great names on the argument that systems should be closed loop, but we are now looking at interoperability where everyone benefits from infrastructure that has been set up by another person. Of course, it has very, very many benefits. Not least among them is economies of scale. Someone, again, earlier discussed the issue of startups. How can startups, if you had to start up your own wallet, what's the chance that you're going to have an agent network as big as MTN's, or an agent network as big as Airtel's? What if those two decided to have interoperability so that their agents could serve anyone that has a wallet? You should be able to go and put money into your wallet using an MTN agent, an Airtel agent. Let's assume your wallet is called Ronald's wallet. And once you pay them that money, they should be able to push that money into your wallet. And you should be able to go and use what's in your wallet at a merchant that's been acquired by MTN or Airtel, maybe Cafe Javas. And you should be able to send money to someone else, again, on MTN or Airtel. So that really is the concept of interoperability. And that is where we think the fintech industry should go. We should move away from the closed loop systems that we're each developing and think about systems that are interoperable, that work across networks without any limitations. There is already something, effort has already been made with things like Mojaloop. Mojaloop is a software that allows that kind of thing to happen, that kind of interoperability. How can you be able to transact cross-platform using Mojaloop? It's a software, I think, credited to Bill and Melinda Gates. So they are foundation-funded software that was created, and the idea was, can people just plug in there? Can you use it to have a system that is agnostic of any service provider, agnostic of any other platform, and be able to do that interoperability? Now, we've gone through a cycle as fintechs since the promulgation of the National Payment Systems Act that is trying to address some of those things. How can we now as licensed entities be able to interoperate, to remove the barriers of the closed loop systems and be able to have systems that talk to each other? A system developed by Pegasus Technologies should be able to serve clients of Uganda or Bionic or whatever the others might be. How can we make sure that when I develop a system, it speaks to a system from somewhere else? And we've had now central bank as the mediator of those conversations, where we are in talks with each other to see that we interoperate or have systems that are interoperable with each other. Of course, the simpler solution would be, can we use Mojaloop as a switch that predefines how the systems talk to each other? The advantage with that is that someone has already paid the money for that, in quotes, a switch being the medium of exchange of data or information between different systems. And if we can use Mojaloop as that kind of switch that Bill and Melinda Gates have already paid for, then that drives down the cost. It removes the whole idea of ownership, who owns it, who uses it, and so on and so forth. So I think what we need to do as we push for instant and inclusive payment systems is to tie it around the concept of interoperability. If I develop a system, no matter how good it is, if it won't speak to another person's system and it's a closed-loop system, then that will come with those limitations. We want to be able to remove those limitations as fintechs and say, now that we are a regulated entity, can we have a solution where all regulated entities, and I'm careful to use the word regulated here because I know there are very many entities that have not yet received their licenses. But the idea here is we need to work in an environment that's been controlled, or that is controlled, is well monitored, is mediated by the central bank to be able to achieve that. So I think the conversation has already started. Is there much work to do? monumental. We certainly have a lot of work to do. But the conversation has started. I think the willingness is there to make sure that systems developed by one entity can serve their clients across different platforms. And for me, the appeal is to everyone here that is in the fintech space, that as you develop your mobile app, I know very many mobile apps are around out there now. As you develop your mobile app, as you set up your engines, can you just make sure that at the back of your mind you understand that it is important, in fact needful, for your system to be able to work across platforms. Of course, there was resistance initially from most of the platform owners, preferring to use their closed loop. But we've already seen the advantages that it bears or it brings when these systems talk to each other. So my appeal, and that should be the end of my keynote, is that as fintechs or as any people that are developing these systems, we make sure that our systems speak to each other. Thank you very much.
All right, okay. Without wasting time, let's definitely dive into our last panel discussion. That will be really, really brief and precise. And then after that, we'll go into the awards ceremony. Then after that, like I promised, we'll have media interviews. And of course, lunch will be served as well. Our first panelist will be Mr. Brian Wamuti, the head of payment MTN Uganda Mobile Money. Please, let's clap for Mr. Brian. And also welcome Mr. Nelson Chituka, the MD Discount Cards Limited, Card Pesa. And lastly, we'll have Mr. Oscar Ofumbi, the CEO, Lend in a Box. All right then, I'll go straight to Mr. Brian. What directions should the policy, because the discussion we're going to have today really is more based on how do we build national instant and inclusive payment systems. Now, I'll start with you, Brian. The question is, what direction should the policymakers put in place to rapidly scale up the instant and inclusive payments?
Well, thank you very much. So the way I look at it, there are 4 key principles for the policymakers to observe. And with the success and on how they implement these 4 principles, we'll see a lot of traction when it comes to instant payments. So the 4 principles, I look at them, 1 is cost. And I think that has been mentioned by the keynote. The second one is critical mass. Critical mass, I look at critical mass in several elements. So critical mass is 1, access, which goes to distribution. Critical mass in terms of user experience and being able to provide the ergonomics and the ability to then transact. I also then look, I look at relevance of the use cases. They say simplicity is so hard, it needs to be engineered. And the only way to get to that critical mass is making sure that all those buckets under it are sorted out. The third element is loyalty, and not just loyalty into the aspect of platform owner loyalty, but working together with the merchants or the billers to provide incentives that will then grow the payments into that space. And the last one that I think is going to be quite relevant is certainty. The rule of certainty in that when people make payments or when the transactions do occur into the platforms, that they're going to be honored, when their issues are going to be resolved, and being able to safeguard that and to safeguard the trust of the consumers and the merchants into the ecosystem. So for the policymakers, I think I look at those 4 key principles are the things that they need to observe to ensure there is progress in the space.
Interesting. Mr. Nelson, question here for you is that how do we build a regulatory sandbox, to support IIPS? Why set up one, and how do we design the leveraging level 1 project principles?
This is not an area that I am very conversant with, so I won't lie. But I presume the whole idea of creating a sandbox is to allow different players in the market to come and test the different kinds of systems they want to implement on the market. So ideally, Bank of Uganda under the National Payments Plan has a sandbox where different players in the market can go in, and then they experiment on how the system will work within the market. And then when they are sure that there are no losses, there are safeguards in place, there are organizational structures for different players, then they can allow that player who has joined the sandbox to take their product out to the general public. The key issue with IIPS comes down to two basic things. One, who controls the transactions? When you have a problem, where do you go? If, for example, I sent money and I didn't get it, who do I go to? And those are the issues that the regulator needs to look into. How do we protect the small man, the small woman? And then how do we ensure that even the systems used are affordable? Key issues are, what are the costs of sending money? Good example is if I take an RTGS from my bank account, sending money to another bank account in the same country. The price is 10,000, whatever the figure. However, on most of these other platforms, the more money you send, the more they punish you for sending more money. And that is why it's important for the regulators to look into what is a fair price for transacting when you're trying to get an IPPS sorted.
Mr. Oscar here, question for you now as well. What he's talked about, now most e-money accounts focus on payments that, with limited savings, most times also with credits or insurance offering associations that are associated with them. Now the question is, how do we improve this using of a scaled IIPS approach as well?
Firstly, we need to understand the use case of IIPS. And then next, I believe we also need to build a business model, because ultimately it's about the money. And so is this big enough? Can it attract, or does it make commercial sense from the business perspective for somebody to invest or to have this conversation basically going on? And then payments is easy. That's why it's more popular, because you're moving money from this point to this other point. So it's easy for anybody to get involved. What about the others? Can we build on top of that? When you have things like insurance, you have things like savings, what is the incentive to use this particular platform to actually do this? So I think the most important part is, if we understand the use case or create a use case that makes business sense, then it will be a lot easier for the adoption of the instant payment systems. And of course, is it big enough? What are the incentives? How big are they? How many people can they actually get on board? There's always a question that partners ask when you go to have a conversation. Show us the numbers. Now, what numbers exist? And how do we justify those numbers? I think it's important if we can work around that space and build a conversation that makes business sense for anybody. I believe everybody will be interested in joining. So I think it's important that we are actually able to do that.
Interesting. Now, back to you, Mr. Wamuti. What I'll say is, what public-private partnerships should participants put in place, to achieve the IIPS?
So the way I look at it, so there are very many. One of the partnerships, or the partnerships that would make sense, are the use case partnerships, and being able to create the use cases that will then provide a deep integration or a deep ecosystem approach when it comes to building those use cases. So it needs to shift from the payment, but it gets to the level above that, which is the association of the customer paying, the association of the merchant, what they're paying for, and providing relevance in the use cases that are then going to be built. I think the second element is going to be incentivizing the different channels that are going to be necessary to grow the payments. So you are looking at different approaches that will incentivize the channel. At times, because it takes a lot to get the consumer, because the consumer most often than not have no issue with the payment, and to shift them to then go to a digital system will take a lot of concerted effort, education, incentives, and then then and only then can they have, shift to a digital play. So I believe those are the two key areas I believe partnerships would work in, building the use cases, incentivizing those use cases, and working together in education and moving people from the analog to the digital process of payments.
Nelson, how do we reduce the transaction costs now and strengthen interoperability across the digital financial services providers?
The simple answer is government. That's a simple answer.
Yes.
The only way to reduce the cost is for government to come in and say, you cannot charge X. That's what's happening in Kenya.
Yeah.
That's what's happening everywhere else. And the basic thing is simply this. If government takes control of the overarching regulatory framework by which the system runs, then government can say, in simple English, it doesn't make sense to have one agent who is an agent for all banks, then an agent for MTN, an agent for Airtel. All those are different, what they call wallets of money being separated. So if government comes in and sets up a system through which all these different players interact, then it can also bear the costs of the system, and which is a major issue with interoperability. Who is going to pay for the overarching system that is used? Like for the banks, they have RTGS, which is run through Bank of Uganda. So Bank of Uganda is the one which bears the cost, major costs, and it can invest going forward like it's doing now. So the answer to reducing costs of putting up the system and running it is for government to actually use taxpayers' money to come in and carry the burden. It's like building a road. Not everybody can build a road, but government can.
Of course. Now, taking you on the same thing of government now, how does government support the creation of border agent networks and more convenient cash inflow and outflow, the SICO point across the DFSPs and also the PISPs? Do we need this as a market?
In general, I think that if we come up with good regulation, and government comes up and says, and puts standards and payment plans. If you go abroad, for example, look at countries which are saying that in the next 1 year or 2 years, we're going to stop using cash, we're going to stop using checks. Those are all regulations that build towards it. And then also setting standards and saying that if a transaction hasn't happened in, let's say, an hour, the money is refunded and it's low. Then the different players will have to work by that standard. And once they're working by that standard, we're able to put in those things into how the different players come in and provide their products.
Interesting. To you, Oscar. Now, what incentives should be put into place to accelerate electronic payments acceptance? How do we assess the improvement brought by digital money in the country versus the benefits of the typical cash system?
I saw a Bank of Uganda publication, I think it was July, where they say they are moving checks from 20 million to 10 million. And so such actions basically encourage electronic payments. But what is the impact of this? And really, the responsibility is ours to encourage the electronic payments. But while in those electronic payments, what is the problem? Why do we have less electronic payments? I'll give a use case for what we have done on the insurance side and how we came to where we are. We have our, an InsurTech, and we collect payments via mobile money. Now, by default, you'll notice a customer journey and they are stopping midway and the part of payment. So the follow-up question was, why aren't you completing your payment? The answer was, we don't have mobile money or we don't have a balance. So the ones that said we don't have or don't use, the follow-up question was why? The answer was, we know friends, we have lost money, others have, are fleeched others, and then we have a problem in that particular conversation. Then we go back into statistics and we discover that this affects the whole 52% of the 30 million users. So there is a business case for an activity like this. So going back into development, we now come up with an cover, which is basically a mobile money cover. What does that do? It supports somebody's balance on the wallet and the transaction that is unable to be completed. That is an assurance for the customer to say, if you attempt to move money or if you use your e-money, then you have an item that's actually, whether your balance is stolen or you fail to complete the transaction, then you have a redress, which is under the insurance you buy for the transaction that actually failed. Now, when you come with such incentives, then you're able to address the question, as my colleague mentioned, what are the redress mechanisms in the event that my transaction is incomplete? And these are real questions that the user is asking. Why should I get onto an electronic payment when there is no methodology for redress? And insurance is such a methodology for redress because you're transferring risk from what you would have had to do to another party to actually manage that. But these are things that can only be done within an ecosystem, and you have the players that need to be on board to have this running the way it does. So I think it's really upon us to firstly do or encourage ourselves to make electronic payments and equally innovate around solutions that will support this particular ecosystem. So it's we that have to make sure that the incentives are in existence. The government has done its part. They have put the regulation, they have put their, the incentives that need to be done, like what the Bank of Uganda has done. We have to move forward in terms of addressing this.
Interesting. This will definitely be the last question here, and that will definitely go to you, Brian. Now, what alternative digital transfer methods should be available in the market where cellular technology is not widely available, or where women do not have access to affordable mobile phones?
I know of, obviously you could use cards. Yes. Yeah. I know, for example, MasterCard has something called the Compass, whereby people can have money stored on, or cards that trigger a balance.
Yeah.
And then that can be, and then obviously there's the cash.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I think where there's no internet, of course, I think there's some use cases that are being built with our blockchain and QR cards.
Yeah.
But we're yet to be tested at scale. Hence, of course, the limited scope for recommendations. Of course, if there isn't, when you look at the alternative methods, they're going to be uneconomical. And we're talking cost. So the internet becomes the only gateway that will enable us have the conversation around cost.
Yeah.
The uneconomical and efficient way of doing these transfers. And so I'm imagining that if we still have to manage cash, then it's going to be uneconomical for everybody else to undertake. So I think the alternative is more expensive, and so we really need to drive towards finding an efficient way of getting this done.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please clap for them one more time. Thank you. Without wasting time, how about we do this, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get to the last part of this night. And we're going to go straight to the Digital Impact Awards, giving away. And of course, we'll definitely be awarding successful people. But before that, let me welcome the CEO. Hi, people. The Lord Mayor, Innocent Kawoya. Please, let's clap for him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The 17th awards event is happening now, organized by High People. By the end of this day, we shall have organized our 18th awards event. Even heaven will clap for us, you can be sure. But I thank you all for always making time to be a part of this gathering. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Ronald Azairwe, our panelists, Your Excellency, Damali, I call her Her Excellency, she's an ambassador. So everyone that made time to be a part of this gathering, the banks, the mobile network operators, the fintechs, the funders, and everyone, thank you for always being a part of the high people organized initiatives. Like you've seen, we intend to make sure that they become more inclusive and they become more industry and less high people. And that is why I had no slot of speech today, because it is for all of us. It is for you. It is for the other people that you've not seen here. The ladies you've seen here, the market women leaders, are a reflection of our Include Everyone program. We started this with students and children in primary school in 2017 through what we call the School's Financial Inclusion Challenge. And if it were not for COVID, today we would have head prefects here speaking about financial inclusion for them and their mothers. But for everyone that came here today, if you're not a billionaire yet, you're going to be a billionaire in 2022. Briefly, High People is 17 years now, and our role is to make sure that we play a role in digitizing, especially the 7 spheres of society influence. I'm sure you've heard about them, and someone maybe knows them better than I do, but that is 1, family; 2, the economy; 3, government; the region, education, media, and celebration. And guess what? The biggest African celebration is happening in the same place here in the next few hours, and that's the 10th High People Music Awards. Thank you everyone for coming. I will invite a few of you after this event to be a part of the same cohort and see the best of what High People has done in changing lives of millions of people, starting with the musicians that we all so much love. Otherwise, for everyone that was nominated for the 8th Digital Impact Awards Africa, we congratulate you. You are the champions that this world needs. For everyone that is winning, well, big congratulations. For everyone that is not winning, you won already by being shortlisted. And for everyone that has been part of this call since the beginning, Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic, Centenary Bank, and all the other players, it's nice that you all believe in the same cause of ensuring we all play a role in digital inclusion, in financial inclusion, and ensuring that we have cyber security so that all the systems and the solutions we provide are safe and secure for everyone that uses them. Lastly, I wish to extend our sincere thanks, 1, to God. It's always beautiful. God has been a beautiful blessing for us every single time. And secondly, to our generous sponsors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, through their Level 1 Project Initiative. They are such a vibe. We all wouldn't be here today, but we thank them. And thank you everyone for coming. Allow me to welcome Her Excellency Damali Sali here and Dr. Ronald Azairwe to do the presentation of the awards. Thank you so much, everyone. As we get the awards, we've always had the best jury that you'll ever find in a digital space. It comprises of everyone from every sort of sector that plays the growth of our economy, not just in Uganda, but globally, from academia, from business, from deep tech, from governance and all that. And you can be sure whoever is winning today is winning because they have done the best job in 2021. And they deserve to be winners.
Okay, now this goes to the digital banking, best digital banking excellence. This is silver category, and the winner is Stanbic Bank. This one is best utilities and government services digital excellence, silver category, and the winner is URA. This one, it says best community stroke MFI banking innovation excellence, silver category, and the winner is Pride Microfinance. This says best financial inclusion excellence, silver category, and the winner is Let Shigo Digital Mall. Well, the next category is the best financial services digital excellence, silver category, and the winner is Standard Chartered Bank. This one here is digital campaign excellence, and the winner goes to the usual, to Jumia Anniversary. Technology services, digital excellence, the winner goes to Rocket Health. Consumer Goods Digital Excellence. The winner goes to Cafe Javas. This is a silver category. FinTech Innovation Excellence and silver category. This is goes to Safe Border Business Loans in partnership with Nomida. Best Digital Brand of the Year, silver category. The winner goes to Centenary Bank. We are now going to the gold category, the Digital Impact Awards Africa, gold category. And the best digital banking excellence, gold category. The winner is Standard Chartered Bank. Okay. The best utilities and government services, Digital Excellence, gold category. The winner is National Water and Sewerage Corporation. Well, Digital Impact Award Africa, the best community, stroke MFI Banking Innovation Excellence, gold category, goes to Centenary Bank. All right, okay. This goes to the best financial inclusion excellence, gold category, and the winner is Momo Pay by MTN Uganda. Best Financial Services, Digital Excellence, gold. The winner is Stanbic Bank. And of course, the best FinTech Innovation Excellence, gold category. And of course, the winner is Digital Ticketing and for Transport Services by Kasaiba Technologies. And of course, the best Digital Campaign Excellence, gold category. Interesting. The winner is Stanbic National Schools Championships. Digital Impact Awards Africa, Best Consumer Goods, Digital Excellence, gold category. Wow, the winner is Movit Products. And the best technology services, digital excellence, gold category. The winner is MTN Uganda. This one says the best banking innovation excellence. The winner is Sente on the Go, Centenary Bank. And of course, the digital brand of the year, gold category, the winner is Stanbic Bank. Now this one here, our last is the overall winner. And of course, this is best digital brand of the year, Diamond. Not gold, not silver, but diamond. And the winner, ladies and gentlemen, is Standard Chartered Bank. Thank you very much. So all the winners, can you come up front here? Because just after Standard Chartered Bank, all the winner come. Your boxes for the ones you should use to carry the awards are here as well. So you'll be able to pick them as well. But also come over. We have a group photo for all of us. For those that won, it would be best that you come with at least one of those, or two or three. All right then. So all the winners, please come forward. All the winners, please come forward. We have a group photo together. And of course, congratulations to all of you that actually have won. This is the Digital Impact Awards Africa, and we are maximizing the digital dividends. So the winners, you can still stay there. Yes, the winners stay. And those that have actually won as well, come forward. We have a group photo together. All the winners. It feels good to win, right? Doesn't it? And if you've not won today, you'll definitely win tomorrow. But don't you worry. If you've not won here, you can hang in a little bit. You may be able to scoop one from the music section. We can extend the other side. People of my height can still come in front. It's fine. Yeah. You're asking, Kumbe, you are the one. Please, we can extend the other side, eh? Please push up a little bit. Up to the podium, And here we can be as close as the podium as well. You just curve in here like this. Yeah. Okay, I think we are done. So I'll only have the ladies only stay. The gents, thank you very much for seeing us. God bless you. Ladies are everything. I married a lady, so that shows you how much I like ladies. Yes. Lord Mayor, please join.
Join the ladies.
You join the ladies. You can be in the middle. They can sandwich you. It's okay. All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, by now you should have your lunch coupons. If you've not have one, you are definitely going to get one, and lunch is definitely served. Feel free to join us for the next program. That's the High People Music Awards. And of course, we'll be celebrating 10 years of awarding Ugandan music. We are the best in this. We have stood the longest and no one can beat us, and we ain't going anywhere. So if you have some time on you, you can actually join the rest of the celebrity world that is definitely going to come in here. And then we have some good time, some musical performances. And of course, we get to do a few things here and there. But for now, allow me say thank you very much for coming once again. It's always beautiful seeing some of the faces here, like Wendy's face all the time. It's always nice to see her. And almost all of you here. And it's beautiful. Here at High People, we are the real deal. And of course, we're going to do this next year, and the other year, and the other year, and the other year, because we are proudly sponsored by God. All right? So other than that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Go out there, win, innovate, create, kick everything it has to be kicked, until we actually get to the final destination. The Finno Ninjas, thank you very much for your beautiful production now. And of course, greater work waits you ahead. Let's do this. Thank you.